You're an opponent of school choice, correct?
Not in all forms, but at least in the form of that we've been discussing thus far, yes. But private choice can, or I should say school choice, as mentioned earlier, in the form of magnets is tremendously successful, and charters with appropriate restrictions could also produce positive benefits that I would support. So I wouldn't say I am all for
Sure,
or all
but you
against
oppose
choice.
the use of public funds for private education, private schools.
If there are, in most instances, I wouldn't say there are no instances in which I would say it was appropriate.
Oh, and where would you support that?
You know, there are students who need residential housing situations because of severe physical and mental disabilities that simply cannot be delivered in a
Okay.
regular public education setting, and that seems to me to
But
be
by and large,
inappropriate.
you're opposed to the use of public
By and
funding.
large, I would think that by and large, the state constitutions are opposed to it, and I stand
Sure.
in accordance
But you
with
don't think
that.
private schools should be abolished or anything like that?
No, I do not.
So you do support the right of families to send their kids to private school if they can afford it?
I support, yes.
And so the likes of, President Biden, Governor Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren, who have paid large sums of money to send their kids to private school, you support their right to do that?
I support an individual's choice to spend their money in whatever way they choose to, so long as it doesn't violate state or federal law.
And so you make an interesting argument in your testimony. You say that the U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 4, says that Congress must guarantee a Republican form of government in the states. And you go on to say that since the nation's founding, the provision of public education has been understood as a central pillar of democracy and a Republican form of government. Professor Black, did COVID-era school shutdowns violate the Republican government clause of the United States Constitution?
Could you repeat your
Did
statement?
COVID-era school shutdowns violate the Republican government clause of the U.S. Constitution?
Public schools continue to provide education, so when you say shut down, in what respect do you
Well,
mean
for
shut
example,
down?
the Burbio in-person instruction tracker for the 2021 school year has an index of in-person instruction. Now, the vast majority of states were above 50%, but the 5 lowest states below 25% were Hawaii, Washington, Maryland, Oregon, and last of all, my home state of California. Would you say that those states violated the Republican government clause of the U.S. Constitution by refusing to offer an in-person instruction to their students when other states were able to do so?
I would not say, the premise of the question, as I understand it, and maybe I misunderstand it, is that they must provide public education at a particular time, and a particular day, and a particular method. The Republican form of government does require public education, but it does not specify the time of day or the location of which that could occur, and thus times in which one was not in school can be made up at later points. So I think you ask a very complicated question that I'd be happy to have further discussions about, but I think there's a lot of nuances to
Do you
the
think it was a
premises.
mistake for those states to keep their schools closed that long?
You keep saying closed.
Or failing to offer in-person instruction?
I'm not a scientist. I don't think I'm prepared to say at what point we should have had in-person instruction or not. I was ultimately think we would follow the CDC guidelines.
Okay. You also note that Florida has received an F when it comes to spending rankings, and you then go on to note that some schools, that several other states received A and B ratings. I looked up one of those at random, Washington, D.C., which received an A rating, and then compared how those two jurisdictions, Florida and D.C., have done when it comes to education outcomes in the National Assessment of Education Progress for students eligible for free or reduced lunch. For fourth grade reading, Florida 61% achieved basic level of achievement, and DC was 38%. Eighth grade reading, it was 62% to 49%. So why is it that you care more about the level of the amount of money that is being spent than the amount that students are learning?
I do not care more about the amount that's spent. I care about studies that show the amount spent correlates, and as to this comparison you make, the percentage of students with disabilities, low income in the District of Columbia is exponentially greater than it is in the state of Florida.
And if I might just add that I did a comparison of students who are eligible for free or reduced lunch. This is an apples to apples comparison.
My apologies.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much, Mr. Colley. And